The British monarchy is not just a relic of the past. It is a living, breathing chronicle of a nation's survival, innovation, and tradition. From the bloody battles of conquest to whispered palace intrigues, join us as we uncover how 1,000 years of royal history have shaped the world we know today. The origins of the British monarchy are veiled in the mists of the ancient past. Before written records, tribal kings ruled over the scattered peoples of what is now known as Britain. These were leaders not only in war, but also in the governance of their tribes, upholding laws and rituals that would lay the groundwork for a more formal monarchy. Among these early figures is the legend of King Arthur, a king whose reality fades into myth. Arthur, the once and future king, embodies the ideals of justice and chivalry that would inspire the values of future monarchs. Whether myth or man, Arthur's legacy is a cornerstone of the British monarchical ideal. With the Roman conquest in the 1st century AD, the concept of kingship in Britain transformed significantly. Roman governance brought new administrative structures which influenced the native tribal leaders who began to consolidate power in ways reminiscent of their conquerors. As the Romans withdrew around 410 AD, a power vacuum ensued. Into this void stepped the Anglo-Saxons, a collection of tribes from the Germanic shores who would become the new rulers of the land. Among these, the concept of a king as a unifier of people began to take a clearer shape. The heptarchy, a term used to describe the 7 principal Anglo-Saxon kingdoms, saw many rulers claim supremacy over parts of what we now call England. Yet, it was in Wessex where the idea of a single kingdom began to emerge as a reality. King Egbert of Wessex would be the first to lay down the challenge to this fractured rule. His conquests over neighboring kingdoms and his consolidation of power marked the beginning of what would eventually become a unified English monarchy. Following Egbert, Alfred the Great, his grandson, took the mantle in 871 AD. In the ever-turning wheel of time, the High and Late Middle Ages were periods of profound change and challenge for the British monarchy. It was an era marked by the rise of powerful dynasties, significant legal reforms, and devastating conflicts that would forge the identity of a nation. As the scattered kingdoms of the early Middle Ages gradually coalesced into a more unified England, the monarch's role evolved from one of mere warlords to a sovereign of statecraft and significant authority. The arrival of the Plantagenet dynasty in 1154 with Henry II brought a new vigor to the monarchy. Henry II's reign was marked by legal innovations, including the establishment of common law and the early jury system, frameworks that would greatly influence the future of governance. However, the struggle for power between the monarchy and the nobility reached a turning point under Henry's sons. King John's turbulent reign led to a seminal moment in 1215, when the Magna Carta was signed at Runnymede. This great charter limited the king's power and laid the foundation for parliamentary democracy. The Plantagenets also saw periods of vast expansion and bitter conflict. Edward III's claim to the French throne in 1337 ignited the 100 Years' War, a protracted and exhausting series of battles that stretched resources but also sparked a fierce national identity. Midway through this war, the Black Death swept through the continent from 1348 to 1350, decimating the population but also causing economic and social shifts that would eventually weaken the feudal system and change the social landscape of England. As the power of the Plantagenets waned, internal strife led to the Wars of the Roses, beginning in 1455. This series of dynastic conflicts pitted cousin against cousin as the houses of Lancaster and York vied for the English throne. The wars culminated in the emergence of a new dynasty when Henry Tudor, a Lancastrian, defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, ending the Plantagenet rule and beginning the era of the Tudors. In the annals of history, few dynasties have experienced as much tumult and transformation as the Stuarts. Their reign over England, Scotland, and eventually Ireland was marked by civil wars, revolutions, and a shift in the very nature of monarchy. The Stuart saga began in 1603, when James VI of Scotland ascended to the English throne as James I, uniting the crowns and laying the groundwork for the Kingdom of Great Britain. His belief in the divine right of kings would set the stage for the conflicts that followed. James III's reign was characterized by cultural flourishing, but also by significant religious discord. His translation of the Bible into English in 1611 remains a monumental legacy, yet his struggles with Parliament over religious reforms and royal finances foreshadowed greater upheavals. His son, Charles I, inherited his father's realm and his uncompromising belief in royal prerogative, which led him into a catastrophic conflict with Parliament. His attempts to enforce religious uniformity and bypass parliamentary fiscal rights culminated in the English Civil War. The Civil War raged from 1642 to 1651, a brutal conflict that saw royalist cavaliers clash with parliamentarian roundheads. The war ended with Charles's defeat and subsequent execution in 1649, an unprecedented act that temporarily abolished the monarchy. In the monarchy's absence, the Commonwealth under Oliver Cromwell attempted to instill a republic, but his rule became increasingly dictatorial, setting the stage for the monarchy's restoration. Charles II, known as the Merry Monarch, restored the monarchy in 1660. His reign was a stark contrast to the austere Commonwealth, marked by a resurgence in arts and culture, though religious and political tensions remained high. Despite personal popularity, his reign saw tragedies such as the Great Plague and the Great Fire of London, events that tested the resilience of his people and his crown. His brother, James II, succeeded him in 1685, but his overt Catholicism and the reassertion of divine right doctrine stirred fears of a return to autocratic rule. This unrest led to his ousting in the Glorious Revolution of 1688. James II's overthrow by William of Orange and his daughter Mary marked a turning point. They accepted the crown, along with the Bill of Rights in 1689, which limited the powers of the monarchy and laid the foundation for a constitutional monarchy, ensuring that the monarchy would no longer reign without Parliament's consent. As the 19th century dawned, Britain stood on the cusp of unprecedented change. It was a time of immense industrial growth, cultural blossoming, and colonial expansion. At the heart of this transformation was the monarchy, presided over by a queen whose name would define an era. Victoria, ascended to the throne in 1837 at the tender age of 18, Queen Victoria's reign would stretch over 6 decades, the longest of any British monarch at that time. Under her watch, Britain became the industrial workshop of the world, its empire expanding to include over a quarter of the global population. The Great Exhibition of 1851, housed in the Crystal Palace, symbolized the zenith of Victorian innovation and ambition. It was a showcase of technology and culture, drawing visitors from across the globe and reflecting Britain's status as a global power. The Victorian era was also a time of profound social change. The railways revolutionized travel and commerce, while the telegraph shrank the world. Urbanization accelerated, and with it, challenges that spurred social reform movements aimed at improving life in Britain's burgeoning cities. Politically, the era was marked by significant reforms, including the expansion of the electoral franchise through a series of reform acts. These acts gradually extended voting rights, reflecting the changing face of British society. Culturally, the Victorian period was a golden age for British literature, with figures such as Charles Dickens, the Bronte sisters, and Thomas Hardy capturing the complexities of the new industrial society. The arts, too, flourished, as did scientific exploration and innovation. Queen Victoria's death in 1901 marked the end of an era. Her passing was mourned as the end of a period characterized by extraordinary progress and power, but also by great difficulties and disparities. The accession of her son, Edward VII, ushered in the Edwardian Era, a decade marked by a lighter, more relaxed social atmosphere that contrasted sharply with the rigidity of Victorian society. Known as the peacemaker for his diplomatic efforts, Edward VII's reign saw continued advancement in technology and society. The era was characterized by significant developments in transportation and communications, which further transformed everyday life and broadened Britain's global influence. Edward's reign, though brief, was also a time of important social reforms, including measures to improve working conditions and extend political participation through the 1911 Parliament Act, which further restricted the powers of the House of Lords. As the Edwardian era gave way to the tumult of the First World War, the British monarchy faced new challenges that would test its resilience and adaptability. As the 20th century unfolded, the British monarchy faced challenges unlike any before. Amidst wars, social change, and global shifts, the Crown had to navigate its role in a world vastly different from the one over which Queen Victoria had reigned. The modern era of the British monarchy began under King George V, who saw the empire through the tumult of the First World War and the transformation into the Commonwealth of Nations. His reign set the tone for a monarchy more symbolic than political, serving as a unifying figure across continents. In 1936, the monarchy faced one of its greatest challenges when Edward VIII abdicated the throne for love, a decision that shocked the nation and the world. His abdication paved the way for his brother, George VI, to ascend to the throne. King George VI's reign was defined by the Second World War, where he remained in London alongside his subjects during the Blitz, symbolizing British resilience and courage. His leadership helped sustain national morale and solidified the role of the monarchy as a beacon of stability in times of crisis. In 1952, Elizabeth II became Queen at just 25 years old. Her reign, the longest in British history, has seen immense social, technological, and political changes. Elizabeth II modernized the monarchy, making it more accessible to the public through televised events and social media. Under her rule, the monarchy has navigated the decolonization process, adapting its role within a commonwealth that shifted from an imperial network to a partnership of independent nations. Each jubilee celebrated under her reign has not only marked her longevity, but also milestones of modern British history and the monarchy's adaptation. Today, the monarchy actively engages in numerous charitable works, influencing public policies and national conversations without direct political power. As we close the pages of history, the story of the British monarchy remains a testament to the resilience and adaptability of an age-old institution. It is a narrative woven with threads of tradition and progress, where each monarch has contributed to the fabric of a nation and beyond. From the battlefields of old to the corridors of modern diplomacy, the crown has endured as a symbol of continuity and a beacon of national identity. In a world that constantly changes, the monarchy stands as a bridge between the past and the future, balancing the weight of history with the winds of change. Thank you for joining us on this royal journey through time. The saga of the British monarchy is not just the story of kings and queens, but of a people and a nation. As the future unfolds, the crown will undoubtedly face new challenges and opportunities, and like the monarchy itself, we will watch and witness its path forward.